now
Okay,
too.
so turn that off and then turn your phone sideways. There we go.
There
You
we go.
see? See how it
Yeah,
like fills
okay.
the whole screen?
Yeah, the difference.
Yeah, there's a big difference. Perfect. How are you, Liz?
I'm good, thank you.
Where are
Thank
you? Are you in Cali?
Yes.
What part of Cali?
San Diego?
Oh, nice. I've only been to, well, I've been to San Fran 3 times and LA once, but I love Cali. Every time I go, it's amazing.
I bet. Where do you stay?
I'm
Because I
in,
know the time zone's different.
yeah, we stayed at hotels. I don't remember like which part, what the names of the hotels, but we stayed at
Mhm.
several different hotels. It's been a while though, but I'm in Long Island, New York. Have you been to New York before?
I have, yes.
Nice. And how'd you like it?
Well, I've been there once, like I would say 4 or 5 years ago. So I didn't get to explore much, but like Times Square mainly.
Nice.
But I
So
liked it. Yeah, it was busy.
it was very fast paced, wasn't it?
Yeah. Is that how you live your day to day?
Well, I live on Long Island, which is more like suburban and more quiet. But I used to go to the city a lot. I do a lot of driving around because I'm a realtor and I'm an Uber driver, so I do a lot of driving around. But I
Nice.
used to go
Yeah.
to the city a lot, so it used to be more fast paced, I would say.
That's nice though. You get a little bit of both.
Right.
Fast paced and then a little slow, steady days.
The city is not too far. So, what do you do for a living, Liz?
I am a caregiver at the
Oh,
moment.
how do you
In-home
like that?
caregiver, yes.
How do you like
It's
that?
nice. It's very nice. It definitely does change your perspective in life, working with elders.
Explain more. Tell us more.
So seeing elders in pain and kind of just, in a sense, wanting death rather than just appreciating, like, the moments, it kind of gets you to think and appreciate every little thing, and even being able to, wake up every day and choose what you want to do.
Why do you think that they want death?
From the looks of it, they're just tired. They're tired of, most of their senses being gone, as in like walking, hearing, or like even eyesight sometimes, depending on what sickness they have. But yeah, it just changes a lot. At least to my day to day, I kind of just have those low moments, but then I remind myself that I am able to change it. So I kind of just go based off, in a sense, it's sad. I know it sounds bad, living through that and hearing that, but like I try to see it more as motivation and kind of live for them in a way.
Yeah, I mean that does sound depressing to want death. I mean, some people say that life gets easier as you get older, but the truth is that
Mhm.
when you think about like all of the health issues and the fact that everyone around you is dying and that everyone's getting older and you're losing hair and getting wrinkles, when you really think about it, life actually gets harder generally as you
Yeah.
get older.
Yeah, and I grew up hearing that as well. Like the older you get, the easier things get. But it's on the contrary. Like everything gets harder.
Yeah, you also get more responsibilities, and I'm sure with a lot of those older people, most of their friends and family are gone, or a lot of them anyway.
Yeah, and they're mainly just alone. Like I've been lucky enough to experience just elders who are in need of companionship rather than like anything else. But it's still sad just to know that they have family members or people around them, but they still don't get as many visits for whatever reason.
Yeah, I mean yeah, I'm sure you deal with a lot of widows and a lot of men who their spouse passed away, right?
Yes. Yes, sadly.
Yeah, and like I'm 35, but even at this relatively young age, I always wonder like how do I avoid that depression when I am 70, 80, 90? How do I avoid that depression of like, all my friends are dead and like I can barely walk and my parents are dead. I love my parents to death. And I always ask myself like, how do I, because obviously I want to get that age, but how
Mhm.
how do I avoid that pain and suffering, depression? What do you think is the answer to that?
I feel like the same for me as now, just all about mindset and like perspective. Obviously, like as humans, you experience lows and highs, and at least at my young age, I'm barely starting my adult life since I am 22 and
Mhm.
I'm starting to live alone, you know? So all the responsibility and everything does get to me, but I tend to kind of just shift my mindset to a positive because with every negative comes a positive and it's vice versa as well. So I kind of just tend to go more towards the positive, and I feel like that's like the you could say like the cure of sadness, just kind of shifting your mind and focusing on the positive.
But it can be really, really difficult focusing on the positive when
Oh
you're
yeah.
when everybody around you is literally dying, you know? You said you're 22 years old. So how does it feel, how does it feel to be 22? How does that feel?
It's weird. It's kind of like I'm an adult, but I'm also mentally like I'm still young. I'm still like that little girl. Like it feels like just yesterday I was just 17, graduated high school. But time does go by fast, and I feel like the same as everything else, the adulthood does come with the pros and cons, but it does come with a lot of struggles.
Like
And
what?
it's things like bills, not knowing what to do with the rest of your life, choosing a career path, just your daily decisions. Like I feel like adults, at least when I was younger, they didn't really speak on things as in like the real life struggles rather than just like thinking, oh, as a kid you wish to grow up quick.
Yeah.
And I I tend to catch myself now wanting to go back as, being that little kid, having no responsibilities, just having fun. But now I try to combine both. Like I said, like I shift my mind more into like the positive thinking, and I kind of just do things that feeds my inner child as well as feeds my adult self and allows me to grow as an adult.
Yeah, so it sounds to me like you're still transitioning, from a kid to adult, and it sounds to me like you kind of feel like you're in this sort of middle ground, and you don't feel like a
Mhm.
full-grown adult. To be honest
Yeah.
with you, I didn't really feel like a full-grown adult until I was like 30, to be honest with you, because
Oh, that's crazy.
yeah, because like I lived with my parents until I was 29. So I that's when I moved out when I was 29. So that I still like pretty much had the same physique for since I was like 16. Same height, same
Yeah,
weight pretty much. So I didn't really feel like a full-grown adult until later on. And the human brain isn't even fully developed until like 25, 26. Did you
25.
know
Yeah,
that?
that's what I've read on. Which is crazy just because, the legal age is 21. Like that's when you're fully grown as an adult according to like the law.
Yeah, well, I mean, most laws is even 18, and like I really don't know and this is just my
Mhm.
personal philosophy, but I don't know where they got 18 from because, like I said, the brain isn't developed until 25, so I don't know
Mhm.
where 18 came from. I mean, yeah, that's when you graduate from high school, but are you really an adult at 18?
No, I feel like even now, like to being 22, you're not really an adult. You just have more, I would say freedom, of an adult, you could say.
Well, especially once you started getting money, like now you have even more
Yeah,
freedom, more power to do things. And do you have your own car?
I do. Yes, thankfully.
Nice. Yeah, it's funny because I told you I'm an Uber driver, and whenever it's like it come becomes like 7, 8 at night, that's when the caregivers start ordering me, and I can always tell like
Yeah.
they tend to be women, they actually tend to be older, and they tend to walk slow to the car, and then they're often like going to certain places, so I can kind of tell whether they're a caregiver or not just by their vibe most of the time. I feel like you're
Yeah.
like the youngest caregiver I've ever met.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, out here, I've seen 17-year-olds be caregivers
Wow.
as well. Yeah.
I didn't even know that was legal to be a caregiver at 17.
Yeah, at facilities? Yeah.
Is that the same as a home attendant?
Um, Not really. I feel like facilities is more as in like fast pace
Hmm.
and it's mainly just on demand. And then in home it's kind of like you're there, most of the time. So it's on demand as well, but it's more companionship rather than work. And then
That's actually
facilities
That's what
back
I
to back.
meant. That's what I meant to say. The home attendants are the ones that I'm picking up. I do get caregivers too, but the home attendants are the ones that I was referring to. So is this your long-term plan to be a caregiver? Is that your long-term plan? What is your long-term plan?
Mm. At the moment, I went to school. I did my CNA program, so I'm certified as a CNA, and then I am also going to college, community college, for my psychology associate's degree, so I could
Oh,
transfer.
psychology.
Yeah, so I don't know. I feel like I get that question asked all the time, like, where do you want to get a job in, or like, what's your long-term goals? And I'm kind of just flowing with life, honestly. Like I said, not really knowing like where to transition to or like transition from where or anything. It's more as in like going my day to day and kind of just learning and knowing what I want to learn and what I want to be. Because I want to be a little bit of everything, honestly. Like I tend to want to be a lawyer. I tend to want to be a nurse. I tend to want to be a teacher. So it's just mainly just wanting to get as much knowledge as possible. And that goes for anything and everything.
So you already have a bachelor's.
No, I have my senior certification. I
Okay.
just started college, yes.
And you said your major psychology?
Yes.
So would you want to ever be like a psychologist or a therapist?
Yeah, that is so far that is the plan. Yeah.
Which one, a
Maybe like
psychologist or therapist?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. It's just, like I want to be a lot. I want to be both if possible. But I'm aiming towards like my PhD. So that way I have like a variety of work fields that I could work in. And then as well, like I would love to conduct psychological experiments and just see where, like the way that people are and like the way people's minds work and just kind of like my ultimate goal and like I feel like my ultimate purpose as a human being and like in this world is just creating a better and loving, safer world for my future children and for like all the new generation. So it's just mainly wanting to become this person who is able to make the world a better place, honestly, whether that's like within my own world or like within my friends and families, but just making it a little bit better. And by that, whether it's being a caregiver, a therapist, as long as I'm helping, I feel like I fulfilled it. So it like I mentioned, like I'm honestly just going with the flow, like seeing where I could fulfill that fulfillment in.
Yeah, I mean, I what I was gonna say is you're young enough to go with the flow, but at the same time, there's really no age limit to like, there's no age where you have to know what you want. Like I didn't know I wanted to be a real estate broker until I was 34. So I just want everyone listening, especially the young people, but even the older people, to understand that there is no age limit. You don't have to know what you want at 22 or 32 or 42 or 52. Like, is it nice to know what you want early? Yes, but you don't have to know what you want early. I mean, some people figure out what they want to do when they're 50, but
Or
and
even then, like I've heard people change their majors like in the middle of like finishing their degrees or like even their career fields. Like they've been like for instance, they've been a nurse for 20 years and all of a sudden they want to be a fireman or just anything other than like a nurse and they switch over. So I feel like it's the same with my mindset, just going with life and like going with the flow because you never really know. Like you learn a lot each second of your day. So
And
you
on top
really
of that, we're constantly changing. Like when
most
I was
definitely.
when I was your age, 22, I just started. I was a school safety officer for 10 years, but I didn't really have any interest in psychology. Now I just recently fell in love with like psychology and mental health. So if when I went to college and I was 17, if I was as in love with psychology back then, I probably would have went towards that field. So
Yeah.
I kind of see myself in you a little bit because you are a psychology major. But the point I'm trying to make is, we're constantly changing, and maybe 20 years from now, I'll want to be something else.
Yeah.
Maybe I want to be a caregiver. Who knows? Like
Yeah.
we're constantly changing, and life is constantly throwing us lemons and things that are good or things that are bad. But we're constantly changing. So I just want everyone listening, especially you, to understand that you don't need to know what you want to do right now. You can always figure that out later on.
Yeah. I feel like life works in mysterious ways as well, so you never really know.
And like no matter which job you pick, you're helping people, whether you pick the nurse or the teacher or the psychologist, even if you're a freaking McDonald's worker, like you're still helping.
Yeah, like, and it's just about human interaction that you could really help somebody. I'm huge on mental health as well. So the fact that anybody is able to change the world is a message that I want to get across through people is you could simply make a better world by just a simple compliment or a simple conversation or just creating a better self. I feel like it all starts within you.
Yeah, what I just realized talking to you is that you're actually my youngest guest so far, which is really
Yeah,
interesting. It's really interesting because, we all have our own perspective on life, and you're at the age where you, like I said, you're still figuring out what you want. But it sounds to me like you are generally a happy person. Would you say that?
I would say so, yes. Most definitely. Yeah, it's all about like working towards your happiness and choosing happiness.
So that's interesting. I never really understand when people say like happiness is a choice. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Um, I don't know. I feel like it all comes back to like what I stated earlier, all about mindset. It's just
Mhm.
why stress more about the negative thing if you can't change it when you have a choice to focus on the positive. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Just
and it makes perfect sense, but I think that there are a lot of people who struggle focusing on the positives. Like for example, I always like think of this hypothetical. Like if I went to jail for life, how easy would it be or how difficult would it be to focus on the positives? Like there's so many people like or if like
oh yeah.
if my mom just got terminal cancer, how difficult would it be to focus on the positives in that situation? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I feel like that's a good way of putting it as well. I feel like if I were to be in that situation, God forbid, right? And I'm sorry for everybody who has lost a parent or somebody in their life. But if I were to be put in that situation, I feel like I would focus more on remembering my mother rather than thinking of the loss and kind of just living my day to day remembering her, like doing it any little thing or like just talking to her or like anything that she used to like or like to do. I would feel like I would fit it into my day to day just to get a memory of her and kind of live through her.
Yeah, so it
Yeah.
sounds to me like you're good at reframing and like taking negative situations and turning them into positives. And so it sounds to me like you're very good at like focusing on the positive.
Yeah. Well, I feel like it all starts by acknowledging the negative as well. You know, like you could acknowledge the negative, but like don't stay stuck within it. Just allow it to flow through you as well as emotions. I feel like emotions should be flowing through you rather than being stuck within.
Right. You don't want to wallow and ruminate in the same
Mhm.
negative emotion over and over again. So where is the process between like where is the line between like processing and wallowing? Because we're supposed to process emotions, right? And I've been thinking
Mhm.
about this a lot lately. But at the same time, like you said, we're not supposed to wallow. We're not supposed to be sad all day. So where is that line
Yeah.
between like processing emotions and wallowing?
Me personally, I've experienced following. I've experienced a whole year of just being in bed crying every day, you know, being in a full blown depression state. And I feel like I that's when I noticed that my whole life I've been wobbling. You know, rather than allowing my emotions to flow through me, I kind of get stuck with that feeling and I brush it off and I just continue my day rather than actually acknowledging what I feel and like what I went through. And I feel like you know when you're walling when you choose it, if that makes sense. Like for instance, for me, I chose staying in bed and not bettering myself. I chose um like for instance, I used to live with a toxic family. I chose living rent free over my mental health. You know, I chose like so many things that allowed me to mentally be in a state where like I can't physically move myself. So one day like I kind of just up and I left. I just chose to want better and to choose better. And ever since I left my parents' home, I struggled, yeah, most definitely, just because, you know, like a first time adult. But I've noticed that I am more happy. I am more free to be myself and as well have space for me to process my emotions and like my thoughts and all. And I feel like it all just starts by choosing. Like you could feel your emotions, but as long as you don't stay put with that emotion, you are processing it. You could feel your emotion right now and continue to want better for yourself. Like, for instance, you are stressing about school, you get to feel the stress for a little bit and then just continue to do more homework and study a little bit more because in the end, there's a goal that you're trying to reach.
Yeah, so it sounds to me like you went through a depression, you had some
Mhm.
toxic family members, and then you finally said, you know what, I have a job, I have income, I'm getting up, I'm getting out of bed.
Well, technically, I didn't have anything to my name. Like I didn't have a car, I didn't have an ID, I didn't have a job, I didn't have education. Like I completely restarted. Like I just chose, I just had a dream. Literally, I just had a dream and a mindset and I just went for it. And ever since then, thankfully, I am in a home in San Diego with my roommates, of course, because San Diego's so expensive. But I have a house to live in. I've just recently bought my second car. I
Second
just
car,
finished,
nice.
yeah, I just finished, nothing nice, right? But it's
But
a
what happened to
car.
your first car?
I got in a car accident.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. And then I just finished my CNA program, so I'm getting my education as well. And I have a job. I have a job that pays me more than I've ever been paid. So I
Mhm.
feel like it just starts with the choice, like choosing to want better and going for it. Even if you're struggling, that's something I would want to show people. Even if you're struggling, even if you have nothing to your name, you are capable of any little idea that has came to your mind. It's an idea in your mind for a reason?
Yeah, so it sounds to me like you're a lot happier than you used to be. You went through a depression and I don't know how comfortable you are talking about that. Do you want to talk about that or not so much?
Um, I mean, I it's just a lot that came from the depression. It could be like it's just a lot of reasons, honestly. Like it's family, um, it's relationships, it's just a lot. Like I don't know where to start. Like
Well,
it's so many reasons.
how is your relationship with your parents?
Um, feel like it's always been the same. We are close in the sense of like we are able to like be playful and but sorry, they're texting me. But close enough to like have a conversation about our day or like even eating dinner together was never the situation. It was mainly for like laughs. And then after laughs, like everybody would go to their each room, and not talk to the next day.
It sounds
Yeah.
like there wasn't that much bonding.
Yeah, which is weird because like I mentioned, like it's literally just when we get together, it's just laughs and then go our separate ways.
Why is it like that?
I like to think, my family has been through a lot,
Hmm.
especially my mom.
Hmm.
So I feel like she grew up in a toxic family as well, and she went through a lot with my dad. So it kind of made her cold in the sense of like showing emotions and
Hmm.
like connecting. So
Hmm.
we kind of grew up on that. Like for me to get a hug from my mom is so rare. Like it feels very uncomfortable
Hmm.
because we didn't grow up with that. Like we grew up more as in like tough love, if that makes sense.
Is she still the same way today?
Yes. She tries to show more love now that I've left, her home. But like even then it's just a little uncomfortable.
No, so what that tells me is that at some point early on, she learned that showing emotions is bad. Like maybe she was taught that showing emotions make you weak. Maybe that's what her brain is saying. Maybe I don't know what her relationship was like with her parents, but I'm willing to bet that, maybe her mom or dad was the same way. Maybe that when she did try to express emotions, maybe as a child, she was turned down, she was shot down in one way or
Yeah.
another. And then she learned at an early age, showing emotions is just gonna lead to me being shot down.
Yeah, I feel like it also taught her to not show emotions because it could be used as a weakness. Especially, I feel like she learned that through my dad, just because, like I mentioned, she had like a tough situation with my dad. My dad was an alcoholic,
Mhm.
and he would get drunk and he would beat on her.
Really?
And yeah, and he was very controlling as well. From the stories that I've heard and like from my siblings and from my mom, I've heard a story where we used to live in TJ, which is Mexico,
Mm-hmm.
and we used to live in a neighborhood, but down the street there was a little market, and my dad would tell my mom to take all of us because in total we are 5 kids, and he would tell my mom to take all of us to the store, and that he already went and timed how long it would take to come from the house to the market and then back to the market to the house, that if she took a minute longer that she would get an ass whooping as soon as she get home.
Wow, that's terrible. So
Yeah.
why did she stay with him?
She's told us that it was mainly for us, but she said that as time like passed by that it just kept getting worse because my older brother would see her on the floor and would pick her up and tell her that it's okay to just go clean up. And she told me that that was like the moment she realized she was in the wrong and that she had to leave.
So she did leave eventually.
Yeah, eventually she left after like seeing that my older brother saw it as something that was normal.
And then so what is the situation now? Are they separate now?
Yeah, they're separated. My dad got better. He's not as alcoholic anymore. He's able to like maintain one drink. Um, they do get along for our sake. Like just in Christmas, this last Christmas, he spent it at my mom's house with all of us. So it did get better, but I feel like it also did scar her
Of
in
course.
the way, yeah, in the way of like needing that kind of like emotional unavailability from a man just because she constantly needs to have somebody around, men wise.
Yeah, so what's the situation now? Does she have a boyfriend now or
Yeah, she has a boyfriend. At first, she got married to my stepdad, and she recently just got a divorce with my stepdad and got a new boyfriend.
and why does she need a man?
I feel like she just doesn't know how to feel her emotions. She
Mm.
doesn't know how to be comfortable with herself. And then also I feel like it's a mixture of like wanting a dad her whole life, but she wasn't able to get a dad. So she kind of finds
What does that mean?
that
She
void.
wasn't able to get at that.
Like she didn't have a dad growing up. And
Mm.
then my grandma found a boyfriend, but that boyfriend was very disrespectful towards my mom.
Wow.
Yeah, so I feel like it's kind of like an ongoing cycle that she kind of normalized seeing men as in like controlling and that it's okay in a sense, but she's not able to really feel like everything she's been through in order to cut that cycle.
Well, it sounds to me like there might be a part of her that feels like she deserves it.
Oh yeah, I feel like yeah, like whatever you don't change, you choose it. Yeah.
I'm not
And
saying she does deserve it. I'm saying that that's probably how she feels deep down, you know?
mhm. Yeah, I've tried to talk to her. Like I've tried to like get conversations with her going, but like I said, like emotions get her uncomfortable. Like she'll start crying and then she'll be like, okay, like she'll kind of make a joke and she'll be like, okay, like vete de aquí pendeja, which is like get out of here, and then pendeja is like a Spanish word.
Yeah. So it sounds to me like she needs help processing her emotions.
Hmm.
It sounds, it's very normal when someone thinks a certain thought or feels a certain emotion and starts running away,
Yeah.
mentally. I've seen it a million times. Um, I wonder if there's like a word for that. I guess suppressing is the word for that, but it sounds like there's a lot of that going on with her. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, most definitely. Yeah.
But your relationship with her is good.
Yeah, in a sense.
Mhm.
Yeah, kind of. It's kind of like shifty.
Yeah. Well, I think that like the thing about life is no, I mean, back to the kid adult thing, no matter
Mhm.
how old we get, everybody wants a good relationship with their parents.
Most
Everybody,
definitely.
whether you're 60, my parents are in the 60s and they still have a good relationship with their parents. So no, that's something, that's that inner child in us that never goes away. Everybody wants a good relationship with your parents. So what about your relationship with your father today? Is that a little rocky or is that good?
I would say both relationships are rocky.
Hmm.
Like my dad has always been physically there
Hmm.
at moments that are needed, but he was never there emotionally.
Hmm.
And I would say my mom as well. Like they're both physically there, but not emotionally.
It sounds to me like they do a lot of suppressing. And, to me, it's interesting because you came out, as far as I know, you come across as a
Mhm.
very friendly and like very in touch with your emotions. And I also think it's a generational thing because I think that like back in the day, how old are they?
My dad's in his 60s and my mom's in her 50s.
I feel like that's the generation that was very out of touch with their emotions.
Yeah.
They didn't know how to process. They didn't know what boundaries are. They didn't know what, ego and suppressing. Like they were not taught the way that we were taught, even though I'm a little older still. They were not taught how
Yeah.
to process emotions the way that we were.
Yeah, most definitely. I agree with the whole generation.
Yeah, because the way that I view it is we get better and better, and we become more psychologically aware. I hear and learn a lot of things that our past generations didn't, and that I didn't hear when I was a kid. So, so right now so they live separately,
Mhm.
and you try to visit them as much as possible, or
Yeah, I mean, well, my dad lives out here in San Diego.
uh-huh.
So I see him sometimes. Like today he was actually gonna come over to help me build my dresser.
Hmm.
Um, and then my mom, I see her every once in a while because she lives up in Temecula, which is like an hour and a
Hmm.
half away. So I try to see them both like as much as I can, but normally sometimes when I'm around them, normally like the most I could do is an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope her new boyfriend's treating her good.
I hope so too. Yeah. I mean, I heard things that I don't agree with, which is kind of why I don't like going around. But she looks happy. That's what counts.
I hope she's not just putting on a smile, because
Yeah.
I feel like she's been putting on a smile her whole life. Like when she does get hit or does she get abused, she just pushes through it, doesn't she?
Yeah. Yeah.
And but your dad never harmed you as
Oh no. Yeah, no.
so that's at least good. So how do you as an adult today, how do
Mhm.
you cope with all that?
Like knowing everything that went down and like just
Yeah, like
witnessing.
how do because you come across as a pretty happy person. Like I
Mhm.
asked you before, and you said you were pretty happy, and those are the vibes that I get that you're happy and healthy. So how did you go from that? That because it's really really hard to go from a toxic childhood to a happy adult, and you're still young. You're still a very young
Mhm.
adult. So you know, what do you have to say to those people who went through similar situations? How do you pull out emotionally and detach? And how do you go from that depressed to happy person? How do you do that?
For me, I think of it more as in like a learning experience. As a kid, you see a lot of things and you kind of pick up little traits. So as an adult, I picked up some of their traits and I found myself unhappy with myself and how I am as a person and the traits that I carry from them. So I kind of just wanted to change, honestly, just wanted to change my story, my childhood story, and just make it something more happy, more positive, like I said. And I feel like if you came from a toxic family and you're not happy with who you are able to change both. You're not what you experience. You are who you become, who you want to be. And feel like you just you just kind of have to feel it. And sadly, it comes with a lot of emotions, a lot of pain,
Yeah.
but you don't get stuck there. You are able to change your outcome in every single sense of life. So that's my way of thinking, like I saw like my dad and my mom's relationship and like hearing all these stories, I saw it as a learning lesson and kind of seeing, in the future when I do get to marry and I do get to have children, I know what partner I want now. I am more aware of what I want to avoid and what I want to change in generational traumas, and just overall everything. So I feel like you should see it more as a learning lesson.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed a lot of back to the generation, today's generation. I
Mhm.
noticed a lot of young people are just breaking cycles, and to me, it looks to me like you already broke the cycle of, letting men hurt you, letting men abuse you, and being it's called alexithymic, and when you're constantly like suppressing emotions and out of touch with your emotions. And to me, it looks to me like you already broke that cycle of being more in touch with your emotions. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, because I am a very emotional person. So I do tend to feel my emotions literally every second of the day. And thank you for acknowledging that as well, just because recently I did go through a breakup and I was able to be more aware of what I allowed and like, like what basically what I chose. And after the breakup, I feel like it changed me as a person and as well as like my perspective even more on love and like relationships. So yeah, I most definitely agree that I am, making barriers
Breakups are
open. Yeah.
breakups are really, really painful.
Yeah, especially because it was my first boyfriend. So it was tough.
How long did you date?
2 years.
Oh man, yeah, that's painful. And
Yeah, and he was my best friend before as well. So I've known
oh,
him for like 6 years.
there, yeah, that sounds like it sounds to me like you lost a part of you.
Oh yeah. Yeah. But it was a part that was needed to be gone. Like I'm a firm believer everything happens for a reason. And I feel like ever since the breakup, I've been able to experience things. Like recently, I just went on my first solo trip to Puerto Rico.
Nice. By yourself?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I just came back on Sunday, and I started thinking to myself, like, this is something that I wouldn't have been able to do if I were in that relationship.
Well,
Yeah.
did you go on vacations together?
No, just because he was more of like opposed to it. Like he was more of like, okay, like I have bills to pay, I have a dream to chase, which I totally agree with. But I'm more of like balancing with both.
Mhm.
So we were just disagreeing on a lot of things.
It sounds to me like you're really good at setting boundaries.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've learned since my childhood that I need to.
Yeah, that's another cycle because your mom wasn't great at setting boundaries, wasn't she?
No. Yeah.
And it sounds to me like you broke that cycle too. You're good at setting boundaries and you're good at saying no. Is that would you agree with that?
Yeah, in most situations, yeah, if I don't feel comfortable, I tend to just say what I think and what I don't like.
Yeah, and you're still young, and what we're taught when we're young, right? When we're kids, we're not taught to say no. We're taught listen, 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 listen. We're taught to say yes, 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 yes. So, you know,
Yeah.
it's really you're at the age where a lot of people are starting to learn I can't keep saying yes. Because 22 is like that's when people enter the real world, around 22, 23.
Yeah.
And then that's when you have to start saying no. And that's when I started to see myself like I need to start like setting boundaries because now you're in the real world. Now you're an adult, and now you're not under your parents' thumb anymore. And now you can say no. You have the option to say no, don't you?
Yeah. And it's a luxury, honestly. So why not go on life with it, enjoying it?
Right. And it sounds to me like you broke up with him.
Yeah.
Why? Why did you break up?
Um, it was just really toxic. I feel like which is crazy because I feel like I didn't really set my boundaries during the relationship and I let so much slide. And finally, when I saw like disrespect with my own eyes, kind of like, okay, like it's official, like I need to leave.
What did he like, was he toxic verbally?
Yeah, verbally and action wise, I feel like it was always like that, but like recently, like in August, because he was an upcoming artist,
Hmm.
and in August, we were at his performance, and I saw him literally like in front of me grab a girl's waist in front of me. Yeah, so like after me seeing that, like I didn't obviously in the moment I didn't know how to react, so I kind of just walked to the bathroom by myself and I collected like my feelings and everything. And I walked out, acted like nothing happened because I wanted to see if he had the respect for me to be like, hey, like this happened, I apologize, or like just something, something that I would do in
You
a
wanted an
sense.
acknowledgement.
Yeah. And he didn't do any of it, so I kind of like acted like everything was okay throughout the night. It wasn't until like the next day where I was like, hey, like I saw that happen, you didn't mention it. And he kind of just tried to like brush it off and try to say that it didn't happen. So that like triggered like the idea of like, okay, like you can't let anybody disrespect you again, from my childhood and like from experiencing my mom and my dad. So after that, I just kind of like distanced myself, and then officially I felt my emotions, and I was finally able to like say, you know what, like we need to break up.
That was the last straw.
Yeah, most definitely.
And you said he's an up and coming artist, so was he on stage when that happened, or was he uh watching?
No, he was like walking with the crowd because he was trying to get like the attention of the host. And he said that he didn't mean to like grab her waist, but like obviously it was, like you could see it. He meant for it. So he was trying to talk to the host because they were going to talk about like introducing him and everything. So that's why he grabbed her attention by that way.
Mhm.
But I kind of just saw it as in like disrespect. And especially just because during that time I didn't have money and I knew like he wanted to feel as an artist, and like I spent my money rather than like paying rent or anything else. I spent my money on an outfit for him that he was wearing that night. So
Wow.
like yeah, so it was like more disrespect towards me. And I noticed that night that it's like, okay, like you put yourself to the side so many times, like it's time for you to like stand up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm willing to bet that there were many other instances that were similar to that, right?
Mhm.
Where he would
Yeah.
flirt with other girls. Would you?
Oh, like flirting wise, no. Like I at least from like what I
Mhm.
like I didn't see
Mhm.
anything like that, but like that was my first time seeing it, like witnessing the disrespect. So like I once I saw it in person, it's like okay, like that's where I draw the line.
Yeah. So what about like was verbally like was he condescending to you?
Uh, yeah, actually, when I first like moved out of my parents' house, I feel like I would never forget this just because it was like so, I would say so evil, like him
Wow.
knowing how like what I was going through and like how I felt and stuff like that. He wanted to break up with me and like when I was going through it, and he mentioned how like my mental health was an excuse for me to be lazy.
Your mental
Yeah,
health or his mental health?
my mental health, because I was like sad. I wouldn't say I was depressed, because I've experienced depression, but like I was in a state of mind where I wasn't doing so great. And he saw that and he told me that it was an excuse for me to be lazy.
And what did you respond to that?
I don't remember honestly. Like that's just how like bad it was.
So this is when you were lying down in bed a lot.
No, this was afterwards. Yeah. I feel like it was when I first like moved out of my parents' house, so I was just constantly like on the go. I feel like almost I was manic, just because I was trying to like figure out a place to stay, like get my stuff together. Because I like I mentioned, I came from nothing. I literally like I didn't even have an ID on me, like I didn't have a physical ID with me, so I was just trying to work on myself and like get everything. So like in the moment when he told me that, I don't remember exactly what I said, but I do remember feeling it and just like crying the whole night.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to figure out like what do you think what how do you think because I remember I asked you how you responded and you said you don't remember, but what would you say today? Like if he said that, what would you say today?
To him,
Yeah. What do you wish you said?
I wish I would have said thank you. Just honestly, thank you for showing me your true self.
Hmm. It's a good
I
answer.
Yeah, I feel like I'm mainly thankful now. Like yeah, I went through it and like I acted out of character when I was in the relationship as well. Like it wasn't just him.
Hmm.
But I would say now, if I were to see him again, I would say thank you for everything. And just, yeah, just thank you, honestly. Because it did change me a lot. It did help me see people for who they really are. Because I tend to be very accepting. Like how
Hmm.
you mentioned, I am very friendly.
Hmm.
But in the last couple, like weeks, I've noticed that people who are in pain themselves and are struggling within themselves tend to want to attack other people.
Hurt
You
people,
know,
hurt
it's,
people.
exactly, most definitely. And I am a firm believer on that now. So knowing that he was like that and knowing that now, it allowed me to really be even more selective with the people that I let in my life because I wouldn't want to lower my frequency for somebody else ever again. Like it's either because there's two type of people in this world that I've noticed. He taught me that is the people who are hurt but choose to act as a victim, or the people who are hurt but choose to change it. And I felt like I would definitely go towards the people who are making a change now.
Yeah, I mean, hurt people is one of the most sad and one of the most true statements. It's what happens is people have insecurities and then they
Hmm.
project those insecurities onto other people. Sometimes it's not even intentional, but either way, it's very, very true. I've seen it a million times. Misery loves company. That's
Yeah,
that's a saying that I'll never forget and that I found to be very, very true. And also another one is you can't pour from an empty cup. A lot of people
that's the one. Yeah,
a lot of people, who don't have much, whether it's money or whether it's happiness or whether it's confidence or energy, they can't give as much as people who are more happy and who make more money. They can't give as much because they don't have as much to give.
exactly. And I
Even if
feel
it's
like,
just energy. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, I'm sorry. But yeah, I feel like he taught me that, which is crazy because I like to see the good in people always, and like I you could tell from like my mindset, I like to see the good in everything. But the last time I saw him, he was over at my house and he started crying, telling me how he was mentally messed up. And ever since that day, like it constantly just plays in my head when I come across new people. And I kind of just think on it. It's like, okay, like does this person benefit me in the sense of them bettering themselves? Because it's not just like it's not just the company that you want to keep around, but you also want to see people do good. I would rather choose friends or family members or just overall people who are doing good for themselves and genuinely happy for themselves rather than somebody who is struggling and choosing to continue to struggle. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, of course, you want to see people that you love succeed and accomplish things, and nobody likes to see people that they love struggling in any sort of way. It's
Mhm.
a really crappy feeling. So it sounds to me like you you realized that he is a hurt person who hurts people, and that you just didn't deserve it. You deserve better.
Yeah. Took a while, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, it also sounds to me like when you were younger, you maybe had a lower self-esteem than you do now.
Oh
And
yeah.
that nowadays it sounds to me like you've learned how to build up confidence over the years.
Yeah, I actually just noticed that and I was actually praising myself on the way to Puerto Rico because I just noticed like I back then even a year ago or like a couple months ago I wouldn't have been able to go on a trip by myself or Like I met so many people, I've had so many experiences in Puerto Rico where I would just go up to them or like I would just dance with them. And I feel like old me wouldn't have been able to. So yeah, that's one thing that I do hold myself highly now is the fact that I am able to, even if I don't feel confident in the moment, it's just I am able to gravitate towards confidence more than my old self.
It sounds to me like for many, many years you were a bird in a cage.
Yeah, that's how I
And
felt.
and recently, maybe once you moved out the house and once you the breakup, now you're like this free eagle that's flying through the air, that's more confident, that's more happy, that's breaking cycles, that's going to Puerto Rico, and that's just, living life to your fullest.
Yeah, that's definitely how I would describe my whole life, being that bird in the cage. Yeah, and I feel like I'm in the stage now where I'm able to like go and fly wherever.
And that must feel amazing.
Yeah, honestly, it does. I feel so much better. I feel like my stress levels have lowered most definitely now just because I am able to be my authentic self. And I feel like that's true happiness, choosing to be who you are and being yourself.
Yeah, and avoiding toxic people. So,
Yeah.
after everything you've been through with your father and your boyfriend, would you say that you've lost some trust in men?
Oh, that's a good question. I feel like I haven't lost my trust in men. I feel like I've lost how can I put this? The ability to choose. I feel like I'm more trusting into meeting people, like them gravitating towards me and like having a conversation and like just overall, like that story where like you meet outside rather than like close friendships or like them constantly texting you like on social media because sometimes social media is used as a dating site. But I feel like I trust more the ability of just letting it be,
Hmm.
if that makes sense.
So, well, yeah, so it sounds to me like you trust the process more.
Yeah, I would say trusting the process more. Because I know all men aren't the same.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I know there's a few, the ones that I look for, but I feel like if it were to happen, it's just all about trusting the process and trusting that I am able to meet that person.
And it's also sad because I know that you're young, but and what I see in so many women and men is
Mhm.
in their 20s, a lot of people lose faith in love and in men and in women in their 20s. I don't know if you've seen it, but I've seen it happen so many times. And I just have this
Oh
fear.
yeah.
I have this fear that it will happen to you.
Oh no. I'm sorry. One second. I'm just gonna grab my charger. Oh no. I feel like I agree because I do see a lot of people in my generation as well not want to trust and like love. But me personally, I feel like I am love. Like you can't take love away from me. Even if, like I constantly am struggling with relationships or finding the right person, I feel like I'm always gonna have that hope. And yeah, I feel like it all comes back to like suppressing emotions, honestly. I feel like my generation is focused more on not wanting to feel and not wanting to be perceived as weak
Hmm.
just because of emotions.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I think that like that whole like showing emotions are weak mentality, I actually, as a 35-year-old, I actually think that it used to be way worse. Like I mean, I do see it because I also used to work in a high school. So I
Mhm.
I do see it, but I see it more in the older generations, especially with men, than the younger ones. You know, like what I see is people actually starting to open up and starting to talk about their emotions more. You know, I was watching Fat Joe, and I think it was Method Man, I think, and they were talking about depression. And you know, it looks to me when I look at the world that people are starting to open up more and process more, which is great. I also wanted to talk about something you said like 2 minutes ago. You said that a lot of people are not wanting to trust.
Yeah.
And what I've seen, you know, what I've seen a lot is a lot of people wanting to trust the opposite gender, men or women, but they just can't. Like they can't because of everything they've been through, all the trauma they've been through. So, you know, there are some people who don't want to trust. I've seen that, but there are also people who want to trust more, but can't bring themselves to do it.
Oh yeah, I feel like that's everybody. I feel like that's the human in people, like it's kind of when you burn yourself, you don't want to play with fire anymore.
Yes. Yes.
But I agree with it to an extent because don't get me wrong, like I still struggle to trust people and to trust overall.
Mhm.
But I feel like I see everything as a learning process.
Uh-huh.
Like you're not really wasting your time, you're not really wasting your love or your energy because either way you're gonna grow from it, whether it was good or bad. Either way, the new you is gonna be born. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like if I were to get in another relationship right now, I feel like yeah, I would struggle, but I would also communicate that hey, like this is what happened. I have trust issues and like let me know if I'm doing anything wrong or if I'm being distant. But I would most definitely still give it my all. I wouldn't hold back over uh like somebody who didn't know how to love correctly. I feel like if anything you're providing yourself of the new you, the better you. I feel like everything's a learning process. I feel like me personally, I feel like your true love is really yourself, and I see relationships as a mirror. They show you what you like and what you don't like about yourself. So it gives you a chance to grow and be stronger within yourself.
Yeah, I think that you know that mentality of everything is a learning process is really really healthy. You know, and like sometimes I'll hear people say things like, you know, I just wasted 5 years with this person, I just wasted 10 years with this
Yeah.
person, and you know, like I think that your mentality is actually really healthy, and I have the same mentality. You know, everything's a learning process. Even if it doesn't work out, you still learned a lot. You learned yourself. You learned not only what you want, but what you don't want, and you know, you learn to set boundaries. You learn to speak up. You learn to, you know, deal with, you know, whatever personality trait they had. You know, back to the, you know, I remember you said they used to stay inside and lie down a lot. And I know a woman who with BPD, bipolar disorder, who
Mhm.
she lied down all day and she only got up for two reasons. She only got up to use the bathroom or to eat. Those are the only two reasons she got up, you know. So, and it sounds to me like you overcame that. And, you know, not that you have BPD, but it sounds to me like you did kind of lack motivation.
Yeah, I feel like it was that. Yeah, most definitely. I feel like it was just the lack of motivation and the lack of goals. I would say just because I wouldn't say lack of goals, just because I did have the same goals that I do now, but I feel like it was mainly just the lack of confidence and the lack of motivation combined together.
Yeah, well, when you're low in confidence, your mentality is, what's the point of trying? I'm gonna fail anyway.
Yeah, so why even try at that point?
Why even bother if I'm a piece of shit who's gonna fail anyway? You know, there are a lot of people who have the mentality. So what do you have to say to those people?
I feel like it's just getting to know yourself, get to know your strengths, get to know your weaknesses, and if you feel like you could thrive more with your weaknesses being stronger, then just practice. I feel like that's my way of going with life, if I for instance, like I took my CNA program twice just because the first time I lacked on low test scores. So I was actually going to hold back on doing it again, but I just went for it. I did the CNA program twice and I ended up passing my state exam. I ended up getting my certificate. So I feel like it's just all about continuing. Like if you don't get the first try, just keep going because the second, the third time you might get it.
It's about persistency. So,
Yeah.
I want to say something. I don't know if I've said this out loud yet, but I actually failed the real estate exam 3 times. I failed it 3 times, and you just gotta keep pushing. You gotta keep trying.
Yeah.
You cannot let those losses stop you. Because if I did, then what? Like that's real estate is the only thing that I can see myself doing. So, you just like you have to have persistency. You got to keep
Persistence, most
going.
definitely. Yeah, I feel like
So
persistence and honestly just confidence. Just that's all you need, persistence and confidence. And if you don't have confidence, the main goal is just persistence, just continuing.
yeah, well, you know what they say. They say that small wins build confidence. And
Yeah.
I was also watching Dr. K. I don't know if you know who he is, and he was saying that surviving failure also builds confidence too. Just failing at
Yeah.
something and then looking back and knowing that you survived all that shit.
Yeah, most definitely. I feel like that's what helps me with my childhood trauma as well. Like when I think back or like when memories come back, I kind of just think on those moments and then afterwards like okay, if I survived that, I could survive this. If I survive, like not having a place to stay for like a couple months, okay, I could survive me staying at a place till I get my apartment. Like just little things like that. And I feel like most definitely the small wins is what leads to the big wins. So you got to appreciate every little win, every little moment, every little accomplishment that you've made, even if it's just waking up and, brushing your teeth and getting ready for work or for school or for just another day. I feel like that's what's going to lead to the big accomplishments.
That's a great point. That's a point that I haven't brought up in my podcast yet. Every little accomplishment you should be proud of. Like you said, brushing your teeth, even just getting out of bed. Like I said, I literally know people who don't get out of bed.
Yeah,
I haven't spoken to her a while, so I hope she overcame that. But I
that's
literally know people
true.
who literally just lie down in bed all day, and she was a grown adult. So that's a great point. Every little thing, whether even if it's just one email, just be proud that you did something, and could you do more? Maybe, but you'll get there eventually, won't you?
Yeah, and it all starts by just doing that one little thing. Like, for instance, when I was going through like my depressive moment and I was just in bed, I didn't want to shower. I didn't want to brush my teeth. I didn't want to do anything. So, like, now when I think back on that, I kind of just motivate myself to get up and brush my teeth. And right after I brush my teeth, I feel refreshed, I feel happy, and I feel proud of myself.
It feels really good to know that you did the right thing and to know that you pushed through the suffering and that you decided to say, fuck this, I'm gonna do it anyway, doesn't it?
Yeah, honestly, I feel like that's mainly what built my confidence is just, I feel like it's confidence goes beyond more than just your physical, image. I feel like it goes more in your spiritual and your mentality as well. Like I feel like I've always been one to lack in that. Like I've been confident in like my physical ways, but never my strengths. And now that I'm able to like think back on everything that I've gone through and like even now, like when I'm in my car, I think back when I used to ride the bus, or like I would
Uh,
have to wake up at 4 in the morning just to go to school. Like I think back on those moments and I'm thankful for my car. I'm thankful for me driving to my job. Like it's just those little things that you really have to remind yourself of, especially when you're feeling low. Like I don't get me wrong, like I still get my low moments, but I tend to want to shift them and think of the moments that I went through to get to where I'm at right now.
Yes, so, it sounds to me like you came a really long way and that you were kind of here, you were stuck in this rut of like, feeling depressed and feeling, maybe somewhat feeling like a victim. Not to say that it's wrong. I'm not saying that in
Yeah.
a bad way. But and that you pushed yourself and that you forced yourself to overcome all of that. And I'm really proud of you for that. There's
Thank
also
you.
another
Okay.
there's another quote I want to bring up.
Mhm.
It's a quote I heard a long time ago that confidence comes from keeping promises to yourself.
Oh, yes, most definitely. I feel like how are you able to trust other people when you can't trust yourself? Like I still struggle with that. I tell myself we're gonna do this or we're gonna do that. Or like for instance, we're gonna start the gym and I tend to not start it and it lowers my confidence more, little by little, until I finally do it and that's when I start feeling better with myself.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting when you said how can we trust other people when you can't trust yourself? That's very, very true because if you can't trust yourself, then you're going to look at other people in a similar way. And to add on to that, how can
Mhm.
you trust yourself when you don't keep promises to yourself? If you're constantly
Yeah.
lying to yourself, if you're telling yourself you'll go to the gym next Wednesday and you don't go to the gym next Wednesday, now you lose trust for yourself, don't you?
Yeah. And your confidence as well, because you want to go to the gym to look better and feel better, you know? So how are you able to feel and look good when you're not even keeping the promise to yourself? So it's kind of like double attack towards yourself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's self-sabotage in many different ways. So I really like this podcast because confidence is something that a lot of people are struggling with, and you are it sounds to me like you are a really good example and a really young example of someone who overcame that like feeling low and feeling down. And I think that a lot of people really, really like to hear those sort of stories where people overcome their depression, and it sounds like you kind of beat you kind of beat yourself. It was like it was you versus you. It was you versus,
Yeah,
and
it's
it
always
sounds
like
like
that.
your positive self overcame all of that.
Yeah, and I'm thankful that you acknowledge that as well because it is helping me reflect on myself as well. And I do have a YouTube channel and I did post my kind of like my process of going through the breakup
Mhm.
to kind of show people the truth, like behind the scenes. Like it's okay to feel your emotions. It's okay to go through what you went through, but don't get stuck in it. Like as time passes by and like as more memories you create with going outside, with your friends, going clubbing, going to the movies, like it does make you feel better. It's always the little things. So I appreciate this podcast as well because I do tend to want to be a mental health advocate on top of everything else. So I appreciate it once again.
Yeah. And it's crazy because we're all going through things, and a lot of people don't realize like how similar that they're not alone, and that there are millions and millions of other people in the same exact boat as them. So Liz, I kind of ran out of questions. Is there anything else you want to say?
Um, I feel like we talked about it all, honestly. It was a good conversation.
Yeah, we definitely covered a lot. And again, I just want to say that, I am really, really proud of you for overcoming everything and for breaking the cycle. And, it sounds to me like I said before, like you broke a lot of cycles, and you're a lot, you know how to process emotions. And I'm just really proud of you for all of that, Liz. I am.
Thank you. Likewise, I'm proud of every accomplishment you've created, and to this day, still wanting to be better. I really am proud of you because it takes a lot.
Yes, I'm still trying. I'm still pushing. Liz, where can people find you?
On Instagram and YouTube at Oh My List. Oh
Okay,
My underscore list.
I'll put your info below. Liz, it was so nice talking to
Thank
you.
you so much.
Have a
Likewise.
good
I hope
one.
you have a good night. Take
You
care.
too. Take care, Liz.